dangerous that way, but he's only 5'8", 165. And if you can get your hands on him, you can knock him way off his game. And so I'm interested to see how he deals with physical NFL nickelbacks, especially, because that will determine whether or not he's going to be as good as they expect him to be.
Trevor Maddich is our guest. What about the Colts draft? I love the Anthony Richardson pick. Jim Irsay came out and said that had they had the number one pick, they would have drafted Anthony Richardson. I would have done the same. At the same time, they say that he's going to play some this year, and that scares the crap out of me because, well, quite frankly, Trevor, I don't think he's ready for that, and I think they could ruin him. What do you think about the Colts? Let's start with Richardson and then go from there.
It all depends on how the Colts use Richardson. If they use him like an NFL quarterback, he'll be in trouble, and the Colts will be in trouble. But if they use him like a running back who will throw it once in a while, then I think they have a chance for him to contribute in a big way early, because he just has no idea what he sees, in my opinion, down the field in terms of coverages and things like that. He just, he doesn't have enough college football playing experience, and he hasn't shown the ability to dissect coverages and apply his route patterns against those coverages. But if the Colts basically make this a college offense, make him a serious threat in the running game, to the degree that the defense has to bring a safety down into the box, that will limit what kind of coverages the defense can run. And that will limit what he will have to decode as a passer. So if they put the ball in his hands, trust that he's not going to get hurt, and let him run, think Jalen Hurts, but even more, then I think he'll be able to contribute early, not as a passer, but as a thrower when he throws occasionally against light coverages, because everybody's up to stop him and that running game at the line of scrimmage. So, he's not ready to play quarterback in the NFL yet, but he can contribute early in a big way if the Colts use him in an unorthodox fashion.
Trevor, what do you think about the Colts draft outside of Richardson?
It's interesting what they did. I like it. They ended up taking a lot of guys that were graded about a round ahead of where they took him. In other words, they have a guy graded in the fourth round, they got him in the fifth, that kind of a thing. And they went long on corner. They drafted three corners that are 6'2" or 6'3". Julius Brents out of Kansas State, Darius Rush out of South Carolina, Jalen Jones out of Texas A&M. All three of these guys are incredibly long. And so that gives them man coverage advantages in matchups, but it also gives them advantages in special teams. And the fact that they went long and tall at corner with guys that are athletic and can run, I think is going to really upgrade not just their coverage, but also upgrade their special teams.
Trevor, what about Jacksonville? They took Anton Harris in the first round, the tackle out of Oklahoma. A lot of people saw him as a fringe first-round pick, but when you're picking 27th, it's kind of a fringe first-round spot. And they lost Jawan Taylor, their right tackle, to Kansas City. Cam Robinson, their left tackle, suspended. My guess is they're going to expect this guy to start right away. What do we know about him?
Yeah, this was a reach. I do not like this pick. And really, leading up to the draft, I didn't like Harrison as a first-rounder at all because of the way he played. I mean, we've talked a lot about the Titans. Dylan Radin, second-round draft pick a couple of years ago now, came out of North Dakota State. And part of the problem was that speed rushers in college would get to the corner, and he would have to turn and kind of chase and push him past the quarterback. Well, that worked at North Dakota State. But in the NFL, those edge rushers are faster, and they'll get that corner. You got to be able to slide out and get in front of them. And that's part of the problem with Anton Harrison. When you watch him at Oklahoma, he did a good job of getting into that pocket and then pushing the defender, the edge rusher, past the quarterback. And that worked in college. But in the NFL, I don't think he'll be able to slide out and get in front of those speed rushers because Harrison just isn't the most athletic guy in the world. He also doesn't have a whole lot of pop. In the running game, he doesn't hit you and kind of shock you a little bit. In the passing game, he doesn't have a really super strong anchor. I just don't see him as being a first-round left tackle, and I think that the Titans will eat him, but Harold Landry will just eat this guy to shreds.
What do you think about the rest of the Jacksonville draft? Because honestly, they had a bunch of picks, and I don't know any of these guys. I mean, I know Yasir Abdullah, the linebacker, the outside backer from Louisville, because, I mean, I watched Louisville play, but outside of that, I don't really know any of these guys, and I'm not sure that any of them strike me as superstars.
No, you talk about Abdullah, he was one of those guys, he was rated as a late 5th or early 6th round pick, and they took him in the first pick of the 5th round. And this is what the Jaguars have done. I mean, the grades, who knows which grades are right. Jacksonville obviously thought more highly of some of these guys than some of the scouts that I've talked to, but they took a lot of guys around earlier than they actually had to, which was kind of interesting. Abdullah, as a linebacker, he's not particularly long. He's not particularly big. Offensive linemen with long arms tend to control him. He doesn't have a speed to power move as a pass rusher that does anything at all. And they took him in the 5th round, so, he's not going to be a first rounder. I don't think I like that. I do like, however, Antonio Johnson. Now, they took him in the 5th round. He's a safety out of Texas A&M. And he's big. He's 6'2", about 200 pounds. And he is a ball separator. He is a massive hitter. And he's pretty good at coverage if he's covering fast tight ends or average wide receivers. But keep in mind, he's a physical thumping safety, and so he's not going to be the guy that's going to be matched up with the fast wide receivers if they can help it. But I think the physicality and athleticism that he will bring, especially as a 5th round draft choice, for goodness sake, I think he was a steal for them. I think he'll be really good. There's some others, though, that I just don't like. We talk about them reaching for guys. For example, they took a linebacker out of Florida named Ventrell Miller in the 4th round. And Miller, he's kind of undersized for a 2-down inside-the-box linebacker. He's not fast enough to really cover sideline to sideline or cut off angles on the edge. He'll be an okay special teamer. He's really tough. But, this is their 4th round pick, and I'm not really crazy about that. Their 2nd round pick, this is the Jaguars now, was Brenton Strange. He's a tight end out of Penn State. And he's a guy that's a really good blocking tight end, decent receiving tight end. That's not a guy that you take with the 30th pick in the 2nd round. I mean, you just don't do that. You take a guy that is more of a playmaker than a utility guy, and that's what they did. So of the division, I think that Jacksonville has more head scratchers across their draft picks of any other team in the division.
Trevor Matich is with us. Last one for you on this topic, Trevor, which is AFC South, Titans, Colts, Texans, Jags. Whose draft did you like the best?
I like the Colts, and contingently, I like the Titans. And that's really contingent on your guy, Will Levis. Depending on how he become my guy. Well, he's your guy now. You own the guy. But they only have 6 picks. I mean, the Jaguars had 13, but I don't think they really helped their team all that much, the Jaguars, with a lot of those guys. But I do like the Colts because of the potential upside of Anthony Richardson and because of those 3 long corners. But the thing about the Titans is that everybody that they drafted, you can see a path for them contributing to this team, and early, with one exception, the 6th round draft choice, Jalen Duncan. He's a tackle out of Maryland. He's a little bit of a head scratcher for me because he's got great athleticism, but I don't see a lot of dog in him. Mm-hmm. In other words, I'll see him make a block and he could finish that block and drive a guy into his back, and he'll just let him go. And it's like, wait a minute, you need some dog. Right, and he needs to develop that in the league, or he'll get abused. But the other 5 guys, including the 7th round pick, wide receiver Colton Dowell, I think all those other 5 guys have a chance to contribute this year for the Titans, and I like this draft for them, assuming that Will Levis will turn into a quarterback that can get something done for him.
Speaking of Will Levis, we'll hit him on the other side. Trevor Matich is presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters, Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase and Michelle, and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Sounds baseball is back all week at First Horizon Park. The Nashville Sounds are taking on the AAA Atlanta Braves tonight through Sunday. And tonight you can bring your dog to the game. Gates open at 5:30 and first pitch is set for 6:35. Grab tickets today at NashvilleSounds.com.
You don't have just an ordinary mom in your life. She's the best. Her work never stops. Her sacrifices are many. Her love is unfailing. This Mother's Day, Genesis Diamonds invites you to join us in celebrating and appreciating the mothers in our lives. Stop in and let one of our trusted advisors help you find a special, meaningful gift. Layering necklaces, stackable rings, eternity bands, pearls, elegant diamond pendants, and of course, stunning diamond earrings. Great Mother's Day ideas for any budget. There's no doubt we love Mom, but sometimes a little extra appreciation goes a long way as a thank you for helping us through challenges, making sacrifices, and always putting the family first. So whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, Mom deserves a gift that's anything but ordinary. And at Genesis, that's our specialty. Exquisite rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, heirloom pieces. Timeless gifts of jewelry that she can enjoy and cherish for decades to come, and always be reminded of how special she is to the family. Genesis Diamonds, online at genesisdiamonds.net.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Do you love sports, and are you passionate about helping local businesses and your community grow? Hey, it's Chase McCabe, and let me tell you, the best attributes of working with us on our sales team at 102.5 The Game include the ability to build relationships with local businesses, craft effective advertising campaigns, and the potential for high earnings. If you have excellent communication skills, think creatively, and have the drive to succeed, just shoot us an email with your resume at together@cromwellmedia.com. That's together@cromwellmedia.com.
Buffalo Bill's Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's east entrance. 5 museums in one, including a wonderful Plains Indian Museum. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bill's Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
They talk sports.
The Predators get the 2 points, which is obviously what they needed.
They're not making big moves that are jaw-dropping signings in free agency.
They talk life.
Well, I almost just fell down the stairs, so there's that.
My backpack was so heavy, the seatbelt alarm was going off the entire trip.
But most of all, they have a good time.
Here or there.
Yeah.
Chase and Michelle, weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Titans rookie minicamp is this week, and that means Peter Skoronski, Will Levis, and the crew will be out there on the field, and then they'll have press conferences, etc. Trevor Matich is with us, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trev, this time last year, we got our first taste of Traylon Burks when he couldn't make it through rookie minicamp, and you lost your mind on it. 2 guys in particular I'm circling for rookie minicamp. The first is Will Levis. Let's start with him. What are your expectations, and what do you expect the discussion around Will Levis to be, even though it's just a rookie minicamp?
I think the discussion is going to be accuracy. If he can improve with his accuracy and his touch and his variation of trajectory, in other words, throw the laser when he needs to, but take some off of it and throw a more catchable pass, or throw that ball that can loft up over the underneath coverage and drop in before the safety gets there on the sideline. Those are the things I think people will be watching for. It very much will be a physical evaluation of Will Levis. The mental side we'll get to in training camp when he starts to get into some of the preseason games. But right now, the knock on him was consistency with his accuracy and not enough of a golf bag with enough clubs in it when it comes to the different kinds of passes to throw. And we'll want to see those different physical improvements with all the rookie stuff and the off-season workouts.
Trevor, do you think the Titans have a quarterback controversy? And not should they have a controversy, but do you think they have a controversy?
No, I don't think they have a controversy at all. The only thing for me is what's the best way to get Levis up to speed to find out what they've got. And again, I mean, I guess they're throwing Malik Willis, their third-round pick last year, under the bus. But, I don't know that he can't be a contributor. If not as a starter, then certainly as a guy that you still want on your roster. But there's no way in the world that Will Levis is going to be beating out Ryan Tannehill in any aspect of Tannehill's game. The only question would be how best to get Levis up to speed so you can find out what his ceiling really is. Is it to play him early and then have Tannehill just coach him up from the sidelines? Is it to put him in on packages in the second quarter and maybe again in the third quarter and let him get his feet wet? If there's a controversy, it's how best to develop Will Levis to whatever his ceiling might be. But from a standpoint of talent, who should be playing, I don't think there's a controversy at all.
Okay, you're the coach. What's your plan?
I'm the coach. My plan is understanding that we could catch lightning in a bottle this year and go deep into the playoffs. It's kind of unlikely, given the combination quarterback, receiver, and offensive line that they've got to deal with on AFC competitors. When you look at Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Diego, the Jets, for goodness sake, the Titans are way below all that stuff. So they'd have to stay healthy and get a little bit lucky. So I am wanting to develop Will Levis now. And I'm not going to start him off the bat because I don't want to put him in and have his confidence crushed and then have to rebuild that in addition to teaching him physically. What I would do if I were the coaches with Will Levis is give him specific packages that revolve around quarterback runs and play action pass, so he doesn't have a whole lot to have to think about or read. We talked about Anthony Richardson with the Colts. The best thing they can do is make the running game such that the safeties have to come up to account for the quarterback run, and then that will simplify coverage. Make packages that will do that for Levis. Let him go in for a series and then come out. And then let the coaches kind of talk to him about it. Let him watch what the defense is doing now on the sideline. Then put him back in for another series before too long, and see how much he can handle. You can always put him in more if you need to. But if you start him and he's a train wreck, then all kinds of other really bad things start to happen.
Trevor Maddich is with us, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. What position do you think the Titans will put Peter Skoronski at this week in rookie minicamp? And what position should Peter Skoronski play?
Skoronski, I think they'll put him at guard, most likely left guard, and let him start there. What should he play? Well, in an ideal world, he'd be playing guard.
No.
Yeah. Here's the problem you run into, though. You've got two ways to approach this if you're the Tennessee coaches. One way is to do what you're talking about, and in support of what you've been saying, Jared, that he should be playing left tackle because you put your best player at the most critical position and then build everybody else around it and let the chips fall where they may. That is a reasonable course of action. But the other reasonable course of action is take your best five guys and figure out how to plug them into different positions. And that's what I expect them to do to start with, because it's not really a question of whether Skoronski is a better left tackle than Andre Dillard, the guy they got from the Eagles. Of course he would be, in my opinion. The question is Andre Dillard a better offensive lineman than Jamarco Jones, right? Or Dylan Radins, assuming he's ready to play. This is the question. So is Dillard one of your five best offensive linemen? And if he is, then the question you've got to ask is, how will you maximize the left side of your line this year? Left tackle Andre Dillard, left guard Peter Skoronski, or the other way around, put Skoronski at tackle and move Dillard inside to left guard, which he could do. He did some of that for the Eagles. But which way is that left side at its best? And that's what the coaches are going to have to ask, because ultimately I think Dillard is probably going to be one of the five best offensive linemen. They're now going to have to figure out where to put him so that they can help him the most and so that he can get the best out of what his skills are. And he's actually a pretty good pass-blocking left tackle.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's close, though? But, like, let's just say that Skoronski is a tackle, and they're battling it out for left tackle. Do you even think it's close between Skoronski and Dillard as to who the better player is?
No, I don't think it's close. Skoronski is clearly much better. And this is where it goes back to supporting what your position is here.
Sure.
Take your best offensive lineman, put him at his best position that he showed in college, and solidify the most critical position on that offensive line and let everybody else figure out what they're going to do. This offensive line is still probably 3 guys away from being an offensive line that'll be able to compete deep into the playoffs on the strength of that line. Both guards and center they're going to have to figure out, and they don't have that on the roster right now. So they're just going to have to mix and match. But Skoronski, is right now automatically the best offensive lineman on this roster, and it's not even close.
They're paying $4 million, $4.5 million to Aaron Brewer, Trev.
Yeah. Well, who else are they going to put in there? I actually thought Corey Levin played well at center last year. I thought he did some really good things, not as a road-grading guy, but as a guy who really held down the position.
Well, I'd rather have him at the veteran minimum than Brewer at $4.5 million.
Yeah, but I think without Brewer, though, who do you have that can swing both guards and center? And I think I don't mind them paying him that for this year so that they can have what he brings from a standpoint of versatility. But nobody thinks, including probably Brewer, for goodness sake, that he's going to be the starting center there for the next 8 years.
Trevor Matich, as always, on our program. He is the best. Trev, take good care of yourself. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jared.
Yep, Trevor Matich joining us on the program. Brewer. Come on now. I will say this.
They love them some Brewer.
He said, he's like, nah, it's not close between Dillard and Skoronski. Skoronski better go right to the Pro Bowl. And I don't care what position he plays, but the hype up of this guy, they better take him right to the Pro Bowl. Ryan Leaf. Yes, Ryan Leaf, of all people, has a take about Will Levis that I think is actually accurate if Vrabel doesn't get in the way. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The offseason is in full swing, but there's no slowing down ESPN's Teron Davenport.
The flow of information.
He talks the talk.
Spears gives you that guy that can still hit the home run.
And walks the walk.
As a run blocker, he's going to murder a linebacker at the second level.
On Everything Titans, TD is on Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast. TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Real estate investors, listen up. D&M Development announces the pre-sale of Nashville's only non-owner occupied short-term rental resort community. The New Cumberland is perfectly located between Germantown and East Nashville, with amazing views of the city and the Cumberland River. The New Cumberland is a resort-style community featuring community pools, spacious kitchens, 4 bedrooms, and 4 baths. D&M Development is releasing 16 units in their Phase 1. Available now. Go to thenewcumberland.com for information. That's thenewcumberland.com.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Hi, this is Jamie from Souls for Souls. I hope you can join us on June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament. We've partnered with 1025 The Game to provide shoes to students experiencing homelessness right here in Nashville. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Now, your Game Center update.
Brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. We have some more NBA and NHL playoff action this evening. The NBA on TNT doubleheader will begin at 6:30 with Game 5 between the Celtics and the 76ers, with the series tied at 2 games apiece. And out west in the late game, it's another Game 5 as Denver hosts Phoenix. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have a pair of Game 4s lined up on ESPN. First up, it'll be the Devils looking to even their series versus the Hurricanes, and then it's Dallas looking to tie things up versus Seattle. In some other NHL news, the Chicago Blackhawks won the draft lottery, giving them the path to draft the consensus #1 pick, forward Connor Bedard. The Nashville Predators will officially draft 15th overall, and the Colorado Avalanche announced that forward Gabe Landeskog is expected to miss all of next season after undergoing another knee procedure. The Nashville Sounds return to First Horizon Park this week as they begin a series with the Gwinnett Stripers, the AAA affiliate of the Atlanta Braves. Tune in for Game 1 starting at 6:20 on your home of the Sounds, 94.9 The Fan. This update brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Bobby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Bay.
Stillman and Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
1025 and 1063.
Cranks it, he scores.
On both sides of the one big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. I was fascinated there by what Trevor Maddich said when I asked him, what would your plan if you were the coach be for Will Levis? Guys like Trevor, and I love Trevor with all my heart, and I love the fact that Trevor will come on the show and he'll give a take. But guys like that, the analyst, the last thing they like being asked is, what would you do if you were the coach? Because then it's like, well, I don't want to farm another man's land, but that's what I'm kind of asking you to do. And he said, if you feel like developing Levis would help you to play him, I guess you could, but that there's really no way, according to Trevor, that he thinks that Levis will be as good as Tannehill this season. So there would be no as far as, well, is he better than Tannehill? The answer to Trevor is no. But I bring this up because I do wonder about the pressure on Will Levis and the expectations that are on Will Levis from the beginning. And Ryan Leaf was on NFL radio. Ryan Leaf, of all people. And Ryan Leaf's actually not that bad. But Ryan Leaf was on NFL radio, and he was talking about the pressure of being a top 5 pick in the draft. And I think we would all know that Ryan Leaf understands pressure of being a top 5 quarterback picked in the draft, and how now Will Levis will not have to deal with that level of pressure. Here is what Ryan Leaf said.
And then when you draft a guy top 5, that's inevitable. It just is, unfortunately. I talked about it earlier around the idea of when you draft a quarterback that high, the anvil which the player carries with them in terms of heightened expectations and stress and pressure, wherein you have Will Levis, who falls into the second round, goes to Tennessee, and no one's going to be, imploring him to be the one that's supposed to start from the get-go. If he's good enough and he presses everybody out there and the coach gives him an opportunity, yeah, but that pressure's not going to come with him.
Okay. And I listened to that and I thought about it and I was like, is he right? And then I thought about this. Let's go back to that C.J. Stroud trade that half of you don't want to believe the Titans were ready to pull off. Let's say the Titans had traded their 1 this year, their 2 this year, their 1 next year, their 2 next year, and something else in order to move up to 3 and draft C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud would absolutely have to play. When we thought they were going to draft C.J. Stroud on that Thursday, we asked TD, does Stroud play or what do you do with Tannehill? And it was like, yeah, about Tannehill. The answer is no. C.J. Stroud plays. With all of that you traded to go up and get him, he's your future. He's the guy. You play him. So if they had done that for Levis as opposed to Stroud, I almost feel like it would be the same way. If they had moved all the way up to take him and it's, this guy is our future, we love him. Not, we drafted him, but we don't even love him more than a guy who may play guard for us that we took with the 11th pick. And then I thought about the one guy who's going to screw this up, because I do think it's good for Will Levis to have less pressure. I had Liam Cohen tell me, the offensive coordinator at Kentucky the year that Levis was good, I had Liam Cohen tell me that part of the problem with Levis is he put too much pressure on himself. And I know sometimes that sounds like the guy who goes in for the job interview and says, my biggest flaw is that I work too hard. But I do think we know that guys can psych themselves up a little too much sometimes. I remember Tom Jurich, the old athletic director at Louisville, used to tell me that he always wanted a kid who wasn't from Kentucky to pitch against the Kentucky Wildcats, because a kid who was from Kentucky who lived that rivalry growing up would take it too seriously and would psych themselves out. Whereas, some kid from New Jersey gets out there on the mound and it's like, who cares about this? So I do think Levis psychs him out a little bit. And with that, I think you'd like to have the pressure off that guy while he develops and he learns and everything else in the NFL. But then there's Vrabel. And it would be easy to say, okay, the pressure's off of Will Levis if Vrabel would take the pressure off of Will Levis. If Vrabel would come out and say, look, guys, Ryan Tannehill is the starting quarterback of this team. And not that bull crap that he said after the draft with the little asterisk next to it, which was Ryan's the starter today, implying that he may not be the starter tomorrow. But if Vrabel just came out and said, Ryan Tannehill's the starting quarterback, I think that would take all that pressure off of Will Levis. But he won't do it. And I don't know why Vrabel won't do it. And the other thing, too, when he gets up there and he says, well, Tannehill's the starter today, Malik's the backup, and Levis will be the third guy. Well, now we know that means absolutely nothing. Now we know that, writing that down of what you just said is the equivalent of toilet paper, because we know that Malik Willis is not going to be the backup quarterback of this football team. And I keep going back to Andy Reid. The day that Mahomes was drafted, and they loved him. They loved Mahomes more than you liked Levis, because they traded up to 10 to take Mahomes, and you didn't even take Levis at 11. You didn't even trade back into the first round. I know you tried, but you didn't do it. And if you had offered too much, they would have done it. So you didn't love Levis. You always liked Levis. But Andy Reid drafted Mahomes, and that night said Alex Smith is the starting quarterback. And Shannon Sharp didn't like it and thought that was an indictment of Mahomes. And Chris Carter, the Hall of Fame receiver, didn't like it and said, why can't I taste the cookies now? And obviously, I think that worked out. I actually watched the week of the draft. I went back and I watched with my NFL Plus account the Kansas City-Denver game from 2017, which was what I call a bowl game, where both teams didn't have anything to play for, and Kansas City had already clinched a playoff spot, and Denver was already out of a playoff spot. And so in this game, Mahomes played quarterback, but none of the good players, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, none of those guys played in that game. And then Paxton Lynch quarterback Denver. And just watching that game, Mahomes looked so unready, including an interception where he threw a ball to a safety, and I don't even know who the ball was intended for. He looked so not ready that if you had watched that game and said, okay, which one of those two guys played better, you could make the argument for Paxton Lynch, because Andy Reid understood. Vrabel, I think he believes this whole macho coach mentality of everything's earned on the grass, everything's earned in the locker room, everything's... as opposed to, hey, let's take some pressure off the kid. If he came out and said, Ryan Tannehill is the starting quarterback, then nobody would be looking at every practice that Will Levis has and saying, is he ready to play? Could there be a controversy? Could it? Because you heard Trevor right there say, as far as right now, there is no controversy because Tannehill is a much better player. But that's not how fans are going to see it. And so the more that Vrabel doesn't say what reality is, the more pressure they're going to put on Levis to perform right away. And a lot of people will say, well, Vrabel doesn't want to back himself in a corner because Vrabel went on the Rich Eisen show before the draft last year and said that the team wouldn't trade A.J. Brown as long as he was the coach. Guess what? Vrabel wasn't in charge then. Vrabel is now in charge. So if Mike Vrabel comes out and says Ryan Tannehill is the starting quarterback, he knows that that's going to be the truth because he's the one who decides that. And then here's the other side of this coin. Let's say Vrabel comes out today and says Ryan Tannehill's the starting quarterback, period. That week one, Tannehill's the guy. And then let's say Levis outperforms Tannehill in training camp. I'm not expecting it. Trevor clearly wasn't expecting it. I'm guessing most of you all probably weren't expecting it, but let's just argument's sake. Let's say Vrabel says Tannehill's the guy. They get to training camp. Tannehill's not the guy. Levis is better. Well, then they can say, look, when we decided that, we didn't know how far advanced Will was. We didn't know how close Will would be to starting. And it would almost be an endorsement of Will. It would be a sign of positivity, of belief in Will Levis that, yeah, dude, we didn't think that you'd be this ready this soon, but you are. You're the quarterback. We believe in you. Go get him, babe. And from the rest of the locker room and Tannehill and everybody else, if Levis has earned that in camp, there won't be an argument about it. So I agree with Ryan Leaf that Anthony Richardson, it's even if he doesn't play well, the Colt fans we just want to see him. C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, you guys play right away. There is not that pressure on Will Levis if the coach doesn't allow the pressure to be put on him. Unfortunately, this coach, I feel like he's not taking that away from him. And I just think it's because Vrabel doesn't understand. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. And I do believe the Titans have a plan at quarterback. It's a secret plan, but I don't think it's that hard to figure out, and I think somebody in the NFL has done that. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game has an all-star lineup Monday through Friday. Batting first at 6 a.m., it's Robbie and Rexroad.
Yeah, you take that. You take that. Take me 80% of that.
Followed by Chase and Michelle at 9.
Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I need my caffeine so much.
Then it's Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace at 11.
Yep, green light, let's go.
You've got a lot of options.
He say, she say. And bringing it home at 2, Jared Stillman for Stillman and Company.
That guy will be a good coach.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Bert Kreischer presents Tops Off World Tour.
I look at my dad, I go, hey dad, maybe we should sit down. I don't think your owl's out tonight. 30 seconds later, whoo, right on top of it we hear, whoo. My oldest daughter goes, Dad, look across the lake at the old man on his dock. There's another drunk, blind old white man just,
Bert Kreischer live on stage. Friday, November 17th, Bridgestone Arena. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com.
Hey, it's Jared from my friends at Hiller. Hiller's Heat Wave Heroes are keeping you from getting burned this summer. If you know your home needs an air conditioning replacement, do not wait until it breaks down. You do not want to be sweating in your home. This month, get a free UV light and free electronic air cleaner when you buy select new HVAC systems. Or get a whole home water filtration for just $59 a month. Or get a new whole home generator for just $139 a month. Call Hiller's Heat Wave Heroes to save the day. Visit happyhiller.com to book.
You don't have just an ordinary mom in your life. She's the best. Her work never stops. Her sacrifices are many. Her love is unfailing. This Mother's Day, Genesis Diamonds invites you to join us in celebrating and appreciating the mothers in our lives. Stop in and let one of our trusted advisors help you find a special, meaningful gift. Layering necklaces, stackable rings, eternity bands, pearls, elegant diamond pendants, and of course, stunning diamond earrings. Great Mother's Day ideas for any budget. There's no doubt we love Mom, but sometimes a little extra appreciation goes a long way as a thank you for helping us through challenges, making sacrifices, and always putting the family first. So whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, Mom deserves a gift that's anything but ordinary. And at Genesis, that's our specialty. Exquisite rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, heirloom pieces. Timeless gifts of jewelry that she can enjoy and cherish for decades to come, and always be reminded of how special she is to the family. Genesis Diamonds, online at genesisdiamonds.net.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Brian, when you did talk to Rand, did that settle you in terms of the direction and what to expect here in the next few months?
I don't know. It's like those conversations you can be, thought of in a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, I have an opportunity in front of me to go out and play football, and that's what I'm here to do.
There you go, Ryan Tannehill. And I cannot get over that answer. The conversation you had with Rand, how'd that, look, man, I'm just here to play football. I just work here, dude. Nothing I can really say there. Didn't feel overly confident. Now, did it? Now, again, there's all this question. Vrabel won't say what the plan at quarterback is, which honestly drives me crazy because I think he's hurting Levis by doing it, especially since I almost feel like we all agree that Tannehill should be the star. I shouldn't say all agree because there's the people that are like, we're not going to be any good anyways. We might as well play Will Levis. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that. But I do feel like it's obvious what the Titans are going to do, even if the Titans aren't going to say what they're going to do. Pat Kerwin on NFL radio. Pat's been doing this for a long time. He's a former coach. He's a former scout. He's been in the media for forever. Pat Kerwin knows exactly what the Titans are going to do. Here's what he said their plan at quarterback's going to be.
Ryan will play this year. I don't think anyone's going to jump up and trade a ton for him, but which would leave him here for a season. Levis isn't ready. Levis will be the starter a year from now. And I don't know what they're going to do with Malik Willis. Right now they're going to say he's the second guy, but I think if Levis goes to the one spot when Tannehill goes, it would be hard to put Malik Willis as the two.
I think Levis will flat out beat him out at 2. Because
I think they're going to hand it to Levis. They're not going to. Willis can't beat out Levis. That's not happening. The question is next year, Tannehill's gone. Levis is the one. Is Willis the 2? Are they really going to do that? Or are they going to bring a veteran in and drop him in that second spot?
I think Pat's right. I think the real question about the plan at quarterback's not about who the backup quarterback's going to be this year. It's about who the backup quarterback's going to be next year. I mean, for me, I think the big question is, when is, are they done with Malik? Malik is not going to beat out Will Levis for the number 2 job. The number one reason being that Malik's not as good as Will Levis. But more importantly, they've got too much invested in Levis. Pat Kerwin's right. Levis, they're going to give Levis the second job. Levis will be the backup quarterback. He's right. Tannehill will be the starter because nobody's going to give you anything for Tannehill. Tannehill will start. Levis takes over. They're kicking Malik to the curb. And then next year, Levis will take over. And if Malik is still around, maybe he'll be the number 2. Or what I think is probably more likely is the Titans will go out and sign a Matt Castle-like backup quarterback. And that Scarbini Chad Henne will be your backup. And, that's what, like Trevor Siemian signed yesterday with Cincinnati. That's who's going to be the backup quarterback next year behind Will Levis. Unless they decide that Malik's made the progress to be the 2. And does anybody think that Malik's made the progress to be the 2 or going to make the progress? I don't. I will be pessimistic as far as Malik is concerned. Now, if Malik goes to training camp and actually looks like an NFL quarterback, that'll change the plan. If the Titans go out there this season and Ryan Tannehill throws for 85 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, that might change the plan. If Will Levis has an unbelievable camp and proves he should be the starting quarterback, that'll change the plan. But right now, the plan, even though the Titans will never tell you because it's super top secret, the plan is what Pat Kerwin just said. Tannehill plays, Levis backs up, Levis plays next year, and either a veteran comes in at number 2 or I guess maybe Malik, probably not. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Eric from Nashville texts into the text line and says, anyone that thinks Will Levis is ready to start in the NFL didn't watch any of his games at Kentucky last year. No supporting cast in college equals no production for Levis. And guess what? There's no supporting cast for him on the Titans. Well, I would disagree because I think Derrick Henry's pretty good. So let's just, as much as we love to bitch about the Titans and the lack of options on the offense, let's admit Derrick Henry's pretty good. I think the Titans have 2 good players on offense that I am not worried about whatsoever. Derrick Henry and Peter Skoronski. Outside of that, everybody else I have some concerns about. I mean, I watched Levis's tape. I think if I was a team that had no chance to win, and I'm talking Houston or Carolina, these teams that were picking very high in the draft, the Rams. Now, I wouldn't start him over Stafford, but if the Rams had him, I'd play Will Levis. I think Will Levis is ready to start in the NFL. Now, ready to start and win in the NFL are 2 totally different things, but I'm not ready to lose. I'm not ready to admit to losing. So I would start Tannehill, and I would bring Levis along slowly, which is what I would like to do. This fan base, and I think I can speak to this as an expert. Like, I think you could call me into court as an expert witness on the Titans fan base because I interact with you guys on a daily basis. This fan base is not ready to lose next season. If this thing goes off the rails and this team sucks as bad as some of these mock draft people are putting them, Todd McShay has them drafting 4th next year, or the Athletics power rankings have them 29th. If the Titans are that bad next year, Vrabel's in trouble because this fan base is not going to be interested in being that bad. And I don't think Levis should be run out there with this fan base, knowing how determined they are to want to win. They say right now, oh, no, we'll worry about No. Come October, I know exactly how you guys will react. So I think Tannehill should be the starter. And my guess is they probably do too. But if Levis had to play, I don't think the NFL is too big for Levis right now, just based off of what I saw at Kentucky. Texter says, what if Levis isn't ready to start the 2024 season? Do we keep Tannehill? If Levis isn't ready to start the 2024 season, I would advise Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel to start calling up my friend TJ Anderson at Benchmark Realty because they may be looking for a new home. They may want to get a for sale sign in the front yard. I heard Rand Carthon. I pick up on these little things in these press conferences. And maybe it's because I don't know. I listen to these press conferences so much. Or Rand Carthon was talking about Chad Brinker in the pre-draft press conference. And look, I have nothing against apartments. I mean, my first job ever was leasing apartments. My dad works in the apartment business. I've lived in apartments for a lot of my life. But Rand Carthon was talking about how he and Chad Brinker had moved into the same apartment complex. Is it wrong that I was thinking, what's Rand Carthon doing with an apartment? Now, he's probably, here for the year, and then the wife will find the home, and then they'll, it's probably something like that. But if Rand Carthon's living in an apartment, if Will Levis isn't ready to play in 2024, you might as well just stay in the apartment. Don't even worry about buying the house. That's what I would say to that. Jonathan in Spring Hill says all eyes being taken off Malik Willis could be good for him. Maybe. I just think that ship has sailed. I just don't think he's very good. Texter says, Jared, the secret plan is to win games, and I will take Mike Vrabel's coaching over yours any day. Well, no duh. And you would take me hosting a radio show over Mike Vrabel hosting a radio show because Mike Vrabel has a weekly radio show. He does half of it, and it's not even that interesting. Like, no duh, he's the coach. But that doesn't mean that Vrabel's arrogance doesn't get in the way of him making good decisions and bad decisions, and that we've seen it, and you know it. So the coach knows more than you, Jared. Well, no, duh. The coach knows more than me. Of course he does. He's paid millions of dollars to know more than me. Like, I'm doing good, but I'm not doing as well as Mike Vrabel is. So, yes, Mike Vrabel's coaching is better than my coaching. And all the GMing is better than my GMing. Even these GMs I don't think are very good, like Trent Baalke with Jacksonville. He's better at evaluating personnel than I am. But that doesn't mean that Mike Vrabel handles every situation correctly when we have seen Mike Vrabel handle many situations incorrectly. For instance, if I were the coach, Todd Downing would not have returned for a second season. And I think we can all agree that would have been the right decision. I'm just saying. Texture says, I hope you're ready for Houston to do what Cincinnati did a couple years ago. Have a historic college quarterback and wide receiver pair, just like Burrow and Chase, with Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. Here's the problem with that, Texter. Ian, do you know what the problem is with that? Normally you should know when I say, Ian, what's the problem with that? But we're winging it here. Do you know what the problem with that is?
Not off the top of my head.
Arizona has their pick. So the idea of, well, hey, the Texans are going to be bad and then they're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. No, they're not. Arizona has that pick, babe. So I'm not so sure that's exactly what's going to happen. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Could yesterday have been one of the worst days in recent Predators history? Probably not, but it was a bad day. And it was a bad day that I think puts a cap on what has been a fruitless 3 or 4 years. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
For the win! Yes! Vanderbilt wins it!
All the big stories.
Quarterback carousel, what the Titans decide to do at the quarterback position.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
10% chance of making the playoffs.
Checkered flag is in the
Team
air.
with incredible talent.
Every team in the league.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Celebrating mothers everywhere. Electronic Express has what you need to make this the best Mother's Day yet. Spoil mom with brands like Samsung, Sony, LG, KitchenAid, Dyson, and more. We've also got huge savings in every department. 4K TVs, computers, housewares, smart home, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 3 years free financing. Shop in-store or online. Get more from mom at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, You can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Meet Joe A, Joe B, and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect. Support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey, Nashville, this is Paul Feinbaum, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5, The Game.
Bring in the happiest guy in Chicago. He's the general manager of your Chicago Blackhawks, Kyle Davidson. Kyle, the lottery gods were smiling on you tonight. You had a 77% chance of landing the 3rd, 4th, or 5th pick. You defy the odds. You will pick first overall. What was going through your mind as Bill Daly announced that the Hawks indeed were number 1?
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't really believe it, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think we've known our odds for quite some time, and so you're banking on 4 or 5, and you're planning accordingly, to be honest. And so, when it kept coming that our logo didn't show up, and then when we got top 3, I was pretty excited, and then obviously seeing that number 1 flip over, I honestly don't even really recall what I was thinking. It just kind of blacked out a little bit. It's a great day for the Blackhawks.
A bad day for the Predators. That was Kyle Davidson, the general manager of the Blackhawks last night. They will have the honor of selecting at Bridgestone Arena Connor Bedard with the number 1 overall pick. Just to give you a sense of how good Connor Bedard is, Robbie Stanley, when I was talking about this earlier today, Robbie Stanley texted me and took this from some scouting report on Connor Bedard. Quote, "This is truly a case where the hype is beyond compare, and he's able to somehow live up to it all. The best possible analogy we could make would be Connor McDavid offensively with an ability to facilitate like Sidney Crosby had at his age. We are talking about a once-in-a-generation talent who will change hockey." Now, last night, I told you on the show yesterday that the Blackhawks were going to end up getting Connor Bedard. And I said yesterday that I was prepared for it. But when I saw that pick come up and the Chicago Blackhawks win the number 1 pick in the draft lottery, I thought, oh, God. So I guess I really wasn't all that prepared. And all these Predator fans yesterday were with me and saying that it was an absolute punch to the gut that the Chicago Blackhawks are going to be able to draft Wayne Gretzky in your building this summer. And I'm kind of mad at the Predators for it because the Chicago Blackhawks did what you were unwilling to do. The Chicago Blackhawks were willing to embrace the suck. Now, they had Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves still under contract. And they could have done what you do, which is look at those guys and say, well, we're not winning with them, but I think we can, which is exactly what the Predators did. The Predators have not won anything. They have not even won a playoff series since Matt Duchene showed up in Nashville. And yet, there's this sense after last season when they got smoked by Colorado in the first round of, no, Jared, I think we can win. I think we can. The fans weren't buying it. I certainly wasn't buying it. But they convinced themselves because they made the playoffs last year that they should try to be good and that Nino Niederreiter and Ryan McDonough were the difference between them and the Cup champions. And what ended up happening? The team ended up being irrelevant. They stunk. The GM left. And I will say this, and I've told them this to their face, they can tell me that David wasn't pushed out. I don't completely believe that. But again, the Chicago Blackhawks just drafted another generational talent. They won 3 cups with the last generational talent they got from being bad, and now they've got another generational talent. And you've got nothing. We went to the Athletics mock draft that came out today, and the guy that they compared who the Predators were going to pick with the 15th pick in the draft was, I don't even remember the guy's name anymore.
Travis Konechny.
Him. Some schmo. And so you had a wasted season this past year, and you're going to end up with some schmo. And they had a wasted season, and they ended up with the next Wayne Gretzky. And I don't know how there can be a silver lining in this, other than the fact that David Poyle's finally gone. And this is ultimately what I feel like last night was. It was the cap on the last 4 years of ineptitude with the Predators. Now, that doesn't mean that Barry Trotz is not going to be inept, because I don't know. I mean, I like Barry. I think Barry clearly knows the game. Barry obviously has been successful. He knows the city. He, word on the street, is not afraid to do things his way, which I like. But we don't know if this Barry Trotz thing's going to work out or not. But the ineptitude of the end of the Poyle era is over, thank God. But last night was the cap. Last night was the exclamation point. It was the, okay, now the last 4 years of you grasping at straws when your team in 2020 wasn't good enough to make the playoffs out of the play-ins. In 2021, when your last month in a shortened season because of COVID got you into the playoffs where you got beaten 6 games of a series you never had a chance to win, where you got waxed the next year by the Cup champions in 4 games, where you put together a half-hearted lineup out there and never contended for doing anything this season, that wasted time is over, and you have nothing to show for it except a bunch of draft picks this year that are all going to be in the Travis Konechny range, and your biggest rival just got the next Austin Matthews, the next McDavid, the next Crosby, the next Gretzky. 71 goals in 57 games for young Connor Bedard at 17. They just drafted Peyton Manning last night. And you're stuck with Kerry Collins. That's what this is. And people showed me the list of first-round picks, first overall picks, and they said, oh, this isn't that bad. This isn't going to be that bad. Look at all these other number 1 picks, and you tell me why we should be so scared. And I think it was like the last 10 years. And in the last 10 years, as far as number 1 picks are concerned, Nathan McKinnon, I'd like to have him. Aaron Ekblad, I'd like to have him. Now, he's not. Ekblad's really good, but he's not McKinnon, McDavid, that kind of guy. Connor McDavid, I'd like to have him. Austin Matthews, I'd like to have him. Nico Hischier. Now, they passed on Cale Makar to take Nico Hischier, and we should all remember that John Hines was the coach when New Jersey decided to do that. So we just remember that John Hines fumbled the Nico Hischier pick, or at least his operation. Rasmus Dahlin in 18, Jack Hughes in 19, Alexis Lafreniere in 2020, Owen Power in 2021, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name who got drafted last year by Montreal. The point being that a lot of teams have had number 1 picks, and it doesn't mean that they just rule your franchise because of it. Except this guy isn't just a number 1 pick. If we were to look at this and compare this to the NFL, Kyler Murray may be a number 1 pick one year. Trayvon Walker may be a number 1 pick one year. And Joe Burrow may be a number 1 pick another year. The Cleveland Cavaliers have had the first overall pick 3 times over the last 20 or so years. They drafted LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Anthony Bennett. Anybody remember Anthony Bennett? The point I'm trying to make is just because Ray Shero and John Hines screwed up the Nico Heischer pick does not mean that Connor Bedard is not the end-all be-all of the future of the NHL. And it doesn't excuse you of the fact that, well, quite frankly, your biggest rival just got the best player. And it's going to happen in your building. And you didn't even have a shot at that best player because you, for the last 4 years, have held on to something that was never going to come to fruition. Every year they kept trying to run it back. And for some reason they believed the Johansson, Duchesne, Forsberg, Yossi core was good enough to compete, even though they never did. They got to the Cup final in large part because Pekka Rinne single-handedly carried them, and they got hot. Just like the Florida Panthers, who have a lot of talent on their team, are hot right now. You had P.K. Subban in his prime. You had Roman Josi entering his prime. You had Ryan Ellis in his prime. And you had the goalie that had carried you to the Cup final. Then after that, it all fell apart. And you kept chasing, and it was always somebody else's fault. First, it was the coach. It's got to be Laviolette's fault. Fire him. The only guy who ever won anything here, hung banners in 3 consecutive seasons, and you fired him before he finished out the 4th season. So fire him, because he's the problem, which I never believed. Then you switch the goalie. And Saros is pretty good, but Rinne wasn't the problem. You weren't losing because of Pekka Rinne. Then you decided, well, the young guys like Tanner Jeannot and that tough style of these young forwards that aren't any good and hit people, this is what we need. And so you did that. And you didn't win anything. Then it was Duchesne and Johansson and all of their faults. And then Duchesne and Forsberg scored 40 goals. So now you were right there. Even though you never were. You kept believing what nobody else thought was real. You wouldn't listen to what everybody was trying to tell you, which was it was time to rebuild. You wouldn't do it. And a lot of people speculate that David Poile wouldn't do it because he knew he wasn't going to be around that long. And so instead of start the rebuild, David Poile wanted to keep going for it, which may be true. It may not be true. I don't know what's in his heart. I think it probably is true. And so all that just going and waiting and keeping and trying and all of that, where you didn't sell Craig Smith and you didn't sell Mikhail Granlund in 2020 and you didn't sell Mikhail Granlund and you didn't sell Eric Halla and you didn't sign Nick Cousins in 2021 and you went and traded a second-round pick for Jeremy Lauzon, who freaking stinks, in 2022. And finally you sold too late, even though we all knew you should have sold in the offseason. You signed Forsberg back up. You bought. Then you sold, and it was too late. And so now you'll have Travis Konechny, and they'll have Wayne Gretzky. And this is the perfect cap for the Chicago Blackhawks, your biggest rival. Honestly, and I'm not one of these fans that just hates somebody to hate them. Like, I went to Louisville. Kentucky's our biggest rival. I don't hate Kentucky. Like, I'm not one of these people that's like, ha, ha, ha. The University of Kentucky's where they invented the toothbrush, or else it'd be called the teeth brush. Ha, ha, ha. It was none of that. I don't care that much, but I really can't stand the Blackhawks. And they're going to get the next great player on your stage. You deserve it. The last 4 years of not smelling the coffee, the last 4 years of ignoring reality, you deserve it. You deserve. Think about this, because people always talk about, I remember last year, Willie and Darren, and they were like, oh, will you support the team if they tank? No, you won't. Guess what? If you had tanked this past season and you got this guy, they'd be supporting this team. So now that's what you have to look forward to. What they were afraid of, talking about the Predators, Poile, what rebuilding really meant, What they were afraid of is what you have to look forward to. This past season was an irrelevant season. I'm hoping next season's not an irrelevant season, but right now it's not looking good. And you could have avoided this if you had already decided to embrace reality. But they wouldn't do it. And so now the Chicago Blackhawks get the next Wayne Gretzky, and you get the next Travis Konechny. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 1025, 106 The Game.
This fall,
Andy, 24-21, your final.
The Game.
All by himself for a one-hand flash.
Gets bigger.
The doors on the board.
Your new home for Vanderbilt Athletics is 102.5 The Game and 94.9 The Fan. Football, men's basketball, baseball, and women's basketball all live here. Your home for Vanderbilt Athletics is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, what's up? Teron Davenport here for Superbook Sports. Baseball season is back, and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the best sports wagering app around, with a direct line to experienced bookmakers behind the counter in Las Vegas. Plus, check this. Get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. Don't let spring pass you by without winning money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Music City will be rocking June 23rd through the 25th with a different sound, the sound of NASCAR.
Start your engine!
The Ally 400 is back at Nashville Superspeedway, and this year, it's a night race. NASCAR in Nashville. It's guitars and fast cars under the lights. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to get your tickets for the triple header weekend, including the Ally 400, Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Rackley Roofing 200 today.
Did you know that more than 4,000 children in Nashville are experiencing homelessness right now? And across Middle Tennessee, that number grows to more than 9,000. Hi, I'm Jamie with Souls for Souls, a global nonprofit based right here in Nashville, and we're on a mission to provide these kids with a brand new pair of athletic shoes through our For Every Kid program. Because we know that something as simple as a pair of shoes can change a child's future. Students who receive these new shoes tell us things like, I can't believe these shoes are mine. I finally have something new of my own and don't feel left out. And my feet feel like they can breathe. We're joining forces with our friends here at 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament to help provide new shoes to kids across Nashville. It's all happening June 7th at the Hermitage Golf Course. Come join us for an afternoon of fellowship and fun, all in support of a great cause. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Cromwell Media, the proud owner of this radio station, is recognizing 3 of our talented teammates in May. At 102.9 The Buzz, part-time host Roman Haviland notches 11 years, and Chris Atticus, the Buzz brand manager and midday host, celebrates 3 years. Nick Frazier, part-time producer on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, passes his first year with us. We thank each of them for helping us make a difference every day. And by the way, we're always looking for new talent. Ping us at together@cromwellmedia.com and let's talk.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The scene, and it is set now for the final 2. Anaheim Ducks General Manager Pat Verbeek, and on the left, General Manager of the Chicago Blackhawks, Kyle Davidson. Without further ado, Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly, take it away.
The first overall selection in the 2023 NHL Draft belongs to the Chicago Blackhawks. Number 2, the Anaheim Ducks.
Bedlam in Chicago. Chicagoland fans high-fiving on their feet, going nuts, as they should be. You can see the smiles on the face of their general manager, Kyle Davidson, who certainly has to be enthusiastic about this great news for their franchise. and, of course, their amazing fans.
There you go, the gut punch last night. We told you in this segment at the end that the Blackhawks were going to get the pick for Connor Bedard. No, I don't think it's rigged, but it is a punch to the gut. Let's roll through some of your phones on this because apparently a lot of you are as equally upset about this as I am. Justin from Greenbrier says, phone lines, by the way, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, says, if I never hear that clip again, I'll be a happier person. Just depressing that this is where we are as a professional hockey club and the future looking so dim because of holding on too long to players that weren't as good as what they were being paid. Let me say this. The future is not dim for the Predators. Now, it's dimmer because every team that you play has a young forward that scores 40 goals every year, but it's not dim. I mean, they do have a lot of picks in the draft, and Nikola Jokic right now might be the best player in the NBA. He was taken in the second round. So you could hit on these. But this is not the NFL where if you hit on your draft picks, you know right away. This is going to be some time. It's going to take a little while. We'll see. That's why this whole John Hines thing, like even if they bring him back, he has no chance to stay the coach because they're not going to win enough and he'll get fired. Texter into the text line says, hard for me to believe that Barry Trotz will be a good GM because I doubt Poyle's recent ineptitude went away when he made the final decision of his career as GM. So I'm going to argue that just because it was the convenient decision doesn't guarantee that it will be a bad decision. Now, I believe in life, if you make a lot of convenient decisions, you will be wrong more than you are right. But just because this was a convenient decision does not mean that this specific decision was a bad decision. Does that make any sense? I think it makes sense. I mean, I'm not, let me say this. I'm not putting all my eggs in Barry's basket, but oftentimes I say, especially with John Hines, I'm rooting for you, but I'm betting against you. I'm not betting against Trotz. He may have a chance. Texter says the Predators smelled the coffee now, and they're in a good spot still. Yeah, they'll be in a good spot when Connor Bedard rolls in here. How many times a year do you play your division teams? 4?
Sometimes 4. Yeah, 4 or 3, depending on the situation. 4
and 3 at home in a season?
No,
or
4 or 3 throughout
total?
the season. Yes.
So, again, it's not like you're going to have Connor Bedard every single game, but you'll see him in the playoffs, baby! Which I certainly... They smelled the coffee too late. And we don't know if they've totally smelled the coffee because we don't know about the coach. It's like when I saw that yesterday, it's like I wanted them to fire the coach. And I thought, what does this have to do with the coach? But it's just he represents the 4 years of bullcrap where this team was never good enough and they kept trying to sell us that they were, and they weren't. Now, word on the street is this is not a done deal that he's coming back. Now, I think if fans thought it was actually up in the air about whether or not John Hines returns as the coach, I think this would be a much bigger story. I think it'd be a much bigger topic. I think we'd be talking about potential replacement coaches. But I think we are all resigned to the fact that Barry Trotz is going to keep Hines on because, look, Hines was Poyle's guy, and Barry doesn't want to come right in and throw the carpet out on the first day, and they'll let Hines take on the losing for next year, and then they'll fire him. And so I think there's a lot of us that just think it's inevitable that Hines will return. I'm just telling you, the word on the street is that is not what's in play. And they have not indicated one way or another. I keep waiting for the white smoke to emerge over 501 Broadway to see if they've made a decision on coach, and it doesn't feel like that's the case. In fact, it feels to me like everybody over there is all in on this Admirals playoff race, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe it's because they like the Admirals coach. And so they're not saying anything on Hines, but then once the Admirals coach's season is over, then Hines is out and he's in, which I would be for, even though I don't know the guy. That's it for us. We're out of here. Basketball, I have renewed my interest in basketball because these series are actually fun. These series are actually questionable as to who's going to win or not, as opposed to before where it felt predetermined. ESPN Radio's got you next.